A hush had fallen over Arcanmoor Academy. The moonlight shimmered across the ancient stone spires, but it was not the quiet of sleep that lingered, it was the quiet of something watching, something waiting. Deep within the courtyard, a boy named Elior Graye reached toward a bronze basin of fire that swirled with colors he had never seen before. The flames bent toward him as if alive, whispering his name. "Find the heart of flame," it said, faint as wind through glass. "Before the shadows do." In that moment, Elior realized the Goblet of Fire had chosen him, and the adventure that awaited would test not only his courage, but the fate of all Arcanmoor Academy. Chapter 1. The Whisper Beneath the Flames. A hush had fallen over Arcanmoor Academy. It was the kind of silence that didn't simply blanket the night, it listened to it. The moon hung low above the Academy's stone spires, brushing silver light over the ivy-laced rooftops and the tall clock tower that had stood for centuries, counting the secrets of every student who had passed beneath it. Inside, the corridors glowed faintly with floating lanterns, each flame swaying in rhythm with the murmurs of unseen enchantments. And somewhere deep within the courtyard, a boy stood alone, his hand stretched toward an ancient bronze basin of fire. Elior Graye. He was 16, with eyes the color of early dawn, that rare gray-blue shimmer between night and morning. His hair was tousled from sleepless study, and there was always a flicker of curiosity in the way he looked at things, as if every shadow might hide a story, every whisper might carry a secret. The Goblet of Fire burned before him, not a goblet of gold or silver, but a living vessel, its flames swirling with hues of sapphire, crimson, and soft white. Once every century, the goblet would awaken, its voice calling upon one soul to uncover a mystery long buried within Arcanmoor's past. Elior had not meant to find it that night. He'd followed a faint echo, a whisper that had brushed against his ear during his walk back from the library. It had sounded almost like a sigh, or perhaps a name. Elior. He took a step closer to the goblet. The flames leaned toward him, curving like fingers. The air grew warmer, not harsh, but alive, humming faintly with magic. "Who calls me?" he whispered, his voice trembling, though not with fear. The flame flickered, and in that instant, Elior saw something. A face, or perhaps a memory, reflected within the fire's surface. A woman cloaked in white, her eyes as bright as stars, her hand outstretched as if reaching for him. "Find the heart of flame," her voice said, as faint as the wind through glass. "Before the shadows do." Then the image was gone. The fire dimmed, and the courtyard fell still once more. Behind Elior, footsteps echoed on the cobblestones. "Graye," a familiar voice hissed. "Do you have a death wish?" Elior turned to see Lyra Vale, his dearest friend, tall, graceful, and perpetually calm, her brown hair braided neatly down her back. Her arms were crossed, her expression a mix of worry and disbelief. "You're not supposed to be here after dusk," she whispered. "And that," she nodded toward the goblet, "is definitely not in the student handbook." "I heard something," Elior said softly. "A voice. It called my name." Lyra frowned. "A voice from a burning cup?" "Not a cup," he corrected her. "A calling." Her sigh was patient, practiced. "You know, most people at Arcanmoor would hear a mysterious voice and walk away." Elior smiled faintly. "And miss the adventure?" From the shadows of the cloister, another figure emerged. Coren Dusk, Elior's roommate and the Academy's most notorious risk-taker. His cloak was half-buttoned, his boots muddy from what was probably another forbidden excursion. "If there's adventure," he grinned, "I'm in." Lyra groaned. "Of course you are." Coren stopped beside the goblet, squinting at the shifting firelight. "Well, it's definitely not a normal flame. It's cold. Look." He reached out, his fingers hovering above the blue glow. "It doesn't even burn." "Don't touch it," Lyra warned. But Elior was already moving closer again, his eyes wide with wonder. "It spoke of a heart of flame. That must mean something. Maybe a hidden chamber, or... A sharp burst of light interrupted him. The goblet flared suddenly, as if hearing his thoughts. A small ember detached from the fire, floating through the air like a glowing butterfly. It hovered in front of Elior's face, pulsing, waiting. Then it darted forward, vanishing into his chest. Elior gasped. For a heartbeat, everything disappeared, the courtyard, the night, even the air. All that remained was a sensation, warmth spreading through his veins, followed by a flood of images, stars spinning, a map forming in his mind, and a single word echoing through his thoughts. Chosen. Elior fell to his knees. Lyra and Coren rushed forward, catching him before he hit the stones. Elior, are you all right? Lyra's voice was shaking now. He opened his eyes slowly. They glowed faintly, not gray anymore, but silver, reflecting the goblet's light. I saw something, he murmured. A place beneath the academy. A door made of fire. Coren blinked. Well, that's dramatic. Before Lyra could respond, a deep, commanding voice rose from behind them. Step away from the goblet. The trio froze. Standing in the courtyard archway was Professor Althea Moorn, head of the Arcane Studies Department, a woman of quiet strength and silver hair that shimmered like moonlight. Her robes were deep indigo, her staff carved from ashwood. Even her presence seemed to calm the restless flames. "What have you done, Mr. Graye?" she asked softly. Elior swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to. It called to me." Moorn's gaze softened, but there was weight in her voice. "The Goblet of Fire hasn't chosen anyone for over 100 years. It does not call without reason." Lyra looked at Elior, worry etched in her face. "What does it mean?" Professor Moorn turned toward the goblet. Its flames flickered low, almost like a heartbeat slowing. "It means," she said, "that destiny has stirred again." That night, the goblet's fire dimmed completely for the first time in a century. And while the rest of Arcanmoor slept, Elior Graye lay awake, his mind alive with questions, his chest still faintly warm from the ember's touch. Somewhere deep beneath the academy, unseen and waiting, an ancient lock began to turn. Chapter 2. The Fire Beneath Arcanmoor. Dawn arrived slowly over Arcanmoor Academy. The sky blushed pale pink above the valley, and the morning mist curled between the old towers like breath from the sleeping earth. The air smelled of parchment and pine, and the faint toll of the clock tower bells echoed through the stone corridors, summoning the students to their first lectures. Elior Graye sat quietly at the edge of his bed, staring at his palm. A faint silver mark shimmered there, like a brand made of light. No matter how many times he rubbed at it, it wouldn't fade. He'd spent half the night tracing the lines that glowed faintly beneath his skin, listening to the whispering hum that still pulsed in his veins since the ember entered his chest. Chosen. The word still rang in his mind. A soft knock came at the dorm door. Lyra stepped in, clutching 2 steaming mugs of tea. Her expression softened when she saw him. "You look like you haven't slept." Elior smiled weakly. "Didn't feel much like sleeping. Not after last night." She handed him one of the mugs. "I figured as much." The room was small but cozy, walls lined with maps, scrolls, and sketches of constellations. Coren's side of the room looked like a storm had passed through it. Half-written essays, loose quills, and an empty chocolate wrapper were strewn everywhere. His cloak hung off the bedpost like a lazy flag. Lyra took a seat across from Elior, watching the faint shimmer on his hand. "That mark," she said quietly, "it looks alive." "It feels alive," Elior admitted. "Like it's watching me." Lyra's brows furrowed. "Do you think the goblet bound itself to you?" "I don't know," he said. "But I think it showed me something important. A place beneath the academy, a door made of flame." Before Lyra could respond, Coren stumbled in, still pulling on his uniform jacket. "Morning, chosen one," he yawned. "Or should I say, walking campfire?" Elior rolled his eyes. "Good morning to you too." Coren grinned and grabbed a piece of toast from Elior's desk. "You two coming to potions class?" Master Quinlan's in one of his moods again. Something about an exploding cauldron yesterday. Lyra sighed. "He's always in one of his moods." Elior stood, his thoughts still tangled in the night's visions. "Let's go. Maybe Professor Morn will tell me more about the goblet later." The Potions Hall of Arcanmoor was one of the oldest chambers in the Academy. Carved directly into the cliffside, its arched ceiling glittered with drops of condensed mist, and the faint scent of herbs and alchemy lingered like perfume. Copper cauldrons lined the walls, bubbling softly, each one glowing with a faint color of its own. Master Quinlan, a short, round man with a warm grin and spectacles perpetually slipping down his nose, was already at work. His robes were stained with colors no spell could remove, and his hair stuck out like he'd survived several minor explosions, which, in truth, he had. My three favorites." Quinlan called out as Elior, Lyra, and Coren entered. "You're just in time for today's experiment, the Serenity Draft. Calms the heart, clears the mind, and in my case, keeps the eyebrows from growing back unevenly." The class chuckled. Even Lyra smiled. Elior tried to focus on the ingredients before him. Powdered silverroot, moonflower petals, and a vial of glimmering blue dew. But the hum in his veins wouldn't quiet. Every time he touched the cauldron's rim, the flame beneath it flickered strangely, bending toward his hand. "Interesting," Quinlan muttered, noticing. "The flame seems to like you, Mr. Graye." Elior looked up, startled. "Like me?" "Oh yes," Quinlan said cheerfully. "Fire knows its friends. Of course, it also knows its enemies, which is why it's wise to keep a healthy distance. Now, stir counterclockwise thrice and—" Before he could finish, the flame leapt higher, a sudden surge of blue light flaring toward the ceiling. Students gasped. The cauldron rattled violently, spilling sparks across the stone floor. Lyra grabbed Elior's arm. "Elior, stop." But Elior couldn't move. His hand was locked in place, his palm burning with light again. The silver mark on his skin flared to life, glowing brighter and brighter, until the room was bathed in it. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the light dimmed. The cauldron's contents settled into a calm, crystalline liquid, clear as water. Silence filled the hall. Quinlan blinked in awe. "Well," he said finally, "that's never happened before." Coren leaned over the table, whistling. "You sure you didn't accidentally brew immortality?" Lyra's eyes were wide. "Elior, that wasn't you. That was the goblet's power, wasn't it?" Elior looked down at his palm, the silver mark pulsing faintly. "It's connected to fire," he whispered. "It reacts when I use magic." Quinlan adjusted his spectacles, a hint of concern in his gaze. "Fire chooses few, Mr. Graye. And when it does, it demands balance. Be careful. Flame can warm or destroy, depending on who wields it." Elior nodded, but his thoughts were far away. A door made of fire. A calling. The goblet hadn't chosen him for nothing. That evening, Elior found himself wandering toward the library. The corridors of Arcanmoor glowed with twilight, lanterns flickering to life, shadows stretching long across the marble floors. The great oak doors of the library stood open, breathing out the familiar scent of parchment, dust, and candle wax. Behind the front desk sat Finner Reed, the elderly keeper of the library, a man with kind eyes, ink-stained fingers, and a habit of falling asleep mid-sentence. "Ah, Mr. Graye," he said without looking up, as if he'd sensed him. "Something tells me you're not here for light reading." "I need to find records about the Goblet of Fire," Elior said, "and anything about the Heart of Flame." Finner's pen stilled. Slowly, he lifted his gaze, eyes narrowing slightly. "The heart of flame, you say? That's old magic, boy. Older than the Academy itself." He rose from his chair, motioning for Elior to follow. Together they descended into the lower vaults of the library, a maze of candlelit corridors lined with ancient tomes and scrolls sealed in glass. The air grew colder as they went deeper. Finner stopped before an enormous, dust-covered chest carved with phoenix feathers. With a soft incantation, he unlatched it, revealing a stack of parchment yellowed with age. "These are the oldest chronicles," he said. "From when Arcanmoor was still a fortress, before it became an academy." Elior leaned over the parchment, tracing a drawing of a blazing chalice etched into the surface. "It's the goblet," he breathed. Finner nodded. The Goblet of Fire was created to contain a spark of the primordial flame, the first magic ever born from light itself. It was said that every century, the goblet would awaken, seeking one pure heart to guard its secret flame, and to keep it from falling into shadow. Elior looked up. "Shadow." Finner's voice lowered. "There were those who once sought to extinguish the primordial flame. The Order of Ash. They believed that if all flame died, the world would return to silence. But the goblet kept its heart hidden." He rested a hand on Elior's shoulder. "If it chose you, Elior Graye, it's because darkness stirs again. The fire must never be allowed to die." Elior felt the words settle heavy in his chest. The ember's warmth pulsed faintly within him, as though it understood. "I'll protect it," he said quietly. "Whatever it takes." Finner smiled sadly. "You sound like someone who's already walked that path once before." Elior frowned. "What do you mean?" But Finner only turned away, whispering, "Some flames never truly go out." That night, as Elior left the library, a strange wind swept through the courtyard. The Goblet of Fire, though extinguished, flickered once, just once, with a spark of crimson. And in the shadows beyond the gate, a pair of eyes watched him, eyes that shimmered with cold ash and envy. The Order of Ash had heard the goblet's call, and they were coming. Chapter 3: The Ember's Secret. The following night, Arcanmoor Academy felt alive in a way it never had before. The moon hung low, spilling silver light across the stone towers, and the wind whispered through the ivy, carrying faint echoes of magic that only the gifted could hear. Elior Graye walked through the quiet courtyard, his hand brushing against the cold iron railing, the silver mark on his palm still faintly pulsing with a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing from the goblet. Lyra and Coren walked beside him, both tense but silent. Tonight, they were not going to the dorms. Tonight, they were following the pull of the ember, following the fire that had chosen Elior. "I still don't like this," Lyra murmured, her voice low. "The library said the heart of flame is dangerous. And you're carrying its spark inside you." Elior nodded, feeling the weight of it. "I know. But if the goblet has chosen me, I have to find it. Before, whatever's coming finds it first." Coren grinned, unsheathing a small lantern from his cloak. "And here I thought the most dangerous thing tonight would be homework." The trio made their way to the western wing of the Academy, the oldest, most forgotten part of Arcanmoor. Its stone corridors twisted unnaturally, windows framed with iron lattices that rattled faintly as though the wind itself feared to pass. It was here that Elior had seen the ember vanish into the air the first night, into something hidden beneath the Academy. They arrived at a wall carved with glyphs that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Elior stepped forward, tracing the carvings with his fingers. The silver mark on his palm pulsed brighter. Slowly, the glyphs began to shift, symbols twisting like living flames. A panel slid open with a whisper of stone against stone, revealing a staircase that descended into darkness. Lyra held Coren back. "Are you sure about this?" Elior's eyes were bright with determination. "It's the only way." The staircase led them to a vast chamber hidden deep beneath Arcanmoor. The walls glowed faintly with veins of molten crystal, casting flickering reflections across the chamber like liquid fire. The air smelled of smoke and earth, warm and alive. At the center of the chamber sat the Heart of Flame, a smaller, crystalline goblet suspended above a pool of molten light. Its flames shimmered gently, casting a soft glow that danced across Elior's face. "This is it," he breathed. "The door, the heart, it's all real." From the shadows stepped Mira Fenlo, a classmate who had always been shy and quiet. Her large eyes reflected the flames, and in her hands she clutched an old leather-bound tome. "I knew someone would come," she whispered. "I didn't know it would be you." Elior frowned. "Mira? How do you know about this?" She stepped closer, her voice low but firm. "Because the goblet doesn't just choose anyone. It chooses those with the sight. And it knew you could hear its call. But you aren't ready alone. I can help." Lyra and Coren exchanged glances, unsure if they should trust Mira. But Elior nodded slowly. "If you're willing to guide me, then I need your help." Mira smiled faintly and opened her tome, revealing pages filled with glowing symbols. The Heart of Flame tests those who approach it. It isn't just a power, it's a puzzle. A trial. If you fail, the ember leaves, and the shadows take what the flame protects. Elior swallowed hard. The silver mark on his palm throbbed with heat. "Then we must succeed." The trial began immediately. The flames of the heart surged, forming a swirling vortex that projected visions into the chamber. Elior saw memories of the past. Battles fought over the primordial flame, students who had vanished while trying to reach it, and shadows creeping across the walls like living smoke. Each vision pulsed with danger and temptation. Lyra stepped forward. "You must focus, Elior. Don't let it distract you. Remember why you came." Elior closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He felt the warmth of the ember inside him, steady, guiding. Slowly, he reached toward the heart. With Myra's guidance, he whispered the incantations written in her tome. The flames danced higher, forming a bridge of fire beneath his hands, twisting and reshaping themselves with every word he spoke. Coren, always the daring one, moved closer to steady Elior. "It's like the fire is alive. It's listening to you." "Yes," Elior said, eyes glowing silver. "It's responding. But it's testing me, not just my words." The chamber trembled as a shadow surged from the far corner, dark, twisting, and malevolent. Elior's heart raced. The Order of Ash had found the chamber. Their leader, cloaked in ash-gray robes, stepped forward, extending a hand toward the heart. "You cannot stop us, boy," the figure hissed. "The flame belongs to those who will destroy the world with it." Elior tightened his grip on the fire. The warmth inside him flared. "No," he said firmly. "It belongs to those who protect it." With a thought, he pushed the warmth outward. The flames of the heart responded instantly, forming a barrier that held back the shadow. The Order's leader recoiled, and the chamber pulsed with golden light. Lyra, Mira, and Coren felt it too, a power rising inside them, warming their bones and steadying their resolve. Together, they focused on the heart. Slowly, the shadow dissolved into smoke, retreating into the walls. The chamber fell silent. Only the gentle flicker of the heart remained, serene and beautiful. Elior dropped to his knees, exhausted but exhilarated. Mira knelt beside him. "You did it," she said softly. "The heart recognized your courage. But remember, this is only the beginning. Shadows will come again." Elior looked at the flames, feeling their warmth spread through his chest. "Then we'll be ready," he said. "We have to be." As they climbed back to the surface, the first rays of dawn broke through the cracks of the academy walls. The courtyard was quiet once more. Yet somewhere beyond the towers, hidden from sight, the Order of Ash whispered in the shadows, plotting their next move. And Elior Graye, chosen by the Goblet of Fire, knew that the adventure had only just begun. Chapter 4. The Flame Unbound. Night had fallen once more over Arcanmoor Academy. The towers rose like silent sentinels, their spires silhouetted against a sky littered with stars. A cool wind whispered through the courtyard, carrying the faint scent of herbs and molten stone. Elior Graye walked with purpose, the silver mark on his palm glowing softly, as if sensing the fire that awaited him. Lyra and Coren followed close behind, while Lyra Vale carried her tome, pages glowing faintly with protective runes. Tonight, they were not merely students, they were guardians of something far older than the academy itself. At the heart of the courtyard, the Goblet of Fire pulsed with life once again. Its flames swirled like liquid gems, reflecting every hue of the night. Elior approached it, feeling a mixture of awe and apprehension. He knew the final step awaited him, a moment that would bind him to the heart of flame and reveal the true extent of his destiny. Professor Althea Morn appeared beside the goblet, her robes flowing like shadows and moonlight. "Elior," she said softly, "the time has come to understand what the flame expects from you. Are you ready?" Elior nodded. "I am. I don't know what comes next, but I will face it." Morn placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Remember, fire responds not just to courage, but to the heart. Stay true to yourself, and it will guide you." The flames leapt higher, swirling and forming a corridor of light. Elior stepped forward, each footfall echoing in the courtyard like a heartbeat. As he entered the corridor, visions appeared before him, not illusions, but memories of Arcanmoor itself. He saw students who had walked these halls centuries ago, guardians of the heart, each one choosing to protect it rather than wield it for power. He saw battles fought in silence, the flame guiding the worthy, shielding the innocent, and resisting those who sought to corrupt its light. Then, from the depths of the corridor, shadows stirred. The Order of Ash had followed. Their cloaks rustled like dead leaves, their eyes cold and calculating. "You cannot hold the flame, boy," their leader hissed, voice like a whisper through ashes. "The world will kneel to darkness." Elior's silver eyes glowed brighter. The warmth of the ember inside him surged, spreading through his veins like molten fire. He lifted his hand toward the shadows, and the flames of the goblet leapt forward, forming a shield of radiant heat and light. Lyra, Coren, and Lyra stood beside him. Together, they chanted protective incantations from Lyra's tome. The air trembled with power, and the shadows hissed, twisting and curling as if recoiling from the warmth of life itself. "You cannot frighten me," Elior said, his voice steady. "The flame is not yours to take." With that, the flames of the goblet shot upward, a brilliant column of light that filled the courtyard and shot toward the night sky. The Order of Ash screeched and scattered, their dark forms dissolving into smoke and wind, banished by the purity of the heart. Elior fell to his knees, exhausted but triumphant. The goblet's flames subsided, gentle now, like a heartbeat returning to rest. He felt the ember in his chest settle, warm and calm, a steady pulse that connected him to something greater than himself. Professor Morn stepped forward, a proud smile on her face. "You have done what few could, Elior Graye. The Heart of Flame has recognized you as its guardian. But remember, this is only the beginning. Shadows will rise again, and the flame will call upon you whenever it is needed." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did it, Elior. We all did it together." Coren grinned, brushing soot from his cloak. "And yet, I'm still hoping for fewer explosions next time." Lyra Vale smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the goblet. "The flame has chosen wisely. It sees courage, loyalty, and heart. It sees the future in all of us." Elior looked at the goblet one last time before the group retreated to the safety of the dorms. Though the flames were calm, he knew the ember would never leave him. The silver mark on his palm remained, a reminder of the fire within and the responsibilities it carried. As the first light of dawn touched the towers of Arcanmoor, Elior felt a quiet peace. Yet somewhere beyond the hills, in the shadows beyond the academy walls, the whispers of the Order of Ash lingered. They would return, and the flame would call again. But for now, the night belonged to the Chosen, the Guardians, and the magic that refused to fade. Elior Graye smiled, feeling the warmth of courage, friendship, and destiny flow through him. The adventure was far from over, but tonight he had proven that fire, like hope, could never be extinguished. Written by Magical Knight.